It's about culture. Let me bring it back to Philly. So Howie didn't want to make a mistake on Jalen Carter by not going for it. Good for him, man. That's a gamble you take. Okay? That's a gamble you take. By all intent purposes, he looks spectacular right now and in shape. See, to me right now, Jalen Carter, it's not about training his body. To me, it's about keeping him focused, like it was with Jerome. Let me get over to Carter now. Let me tell you what they're saying about your boy, Jalen Carter. Unbelievable strength, footwork, lateral movement, pass rushing skills. He's already your best defensive lineman. And they haven't even started hitting yet. I'm hearing this about Jalen Carter. All the things that I told you about Jerome Brown. This is about conditioning his mind to get into a process. Before I bring Garry Cobb in here, let me tell you what these pros like Garry Cobb or these 10-plus year guys. Here's advice from a player who didn't play like those guys did. You find a guy like Garry Cobb who's got 10 years in the league and was a late draft guy. He's got hunger and a routine. You get to that routine, what that guy does, because he's fighting every day of his life, because back in the back of his mind, he still thinks he could be cut, even in year 10. And that's what Jalen Carter's got to have, a process. I told you this when I sat next to, I had Ed Jones over here, and I had Garry Cobb here. We had so many veteran guys. Tom Rafferty was on that. And you're like this. Look at how these guys prepare for the NFL. I had never seen that before. Let's bring in our friend Garry Cobb from Fox 29 in Philadelphia. Am I right, Gary, when we say this, that right now I'm hearing this about Jalen Carter. They're so impressed with this kid that they believe that he's going to be the best defensive lineman that they have. That's incredible. Going through OTAs, I mean, you're not even in – you're just in helmets and shorts right now. Mm-hmm. But so far, it's a great start for the kid.
Well, you can see some of that. I mean, he's shown in the tape where you can see at times where he can – I mean, he's a threat to do so many different moves. He can beat you with power. He can beat you with his hand quickness. He's got the long arms. He's just a tremendous athlete, with his strength, the lower body strength and everything. So, he can bull rush a guy. So really inside there, that's the thing that, the guards and the centers, they can't afford to get pushed back into the quarterback's face. So they got to be able to deal with a guy with power and everything. So then that opens up the speed moves he can, where he goes outside and goes around the corner, comes outside of the guard or the center. So really, he is he's like a basketball player where he's got the jumper and he can go around you, where you got to deal with both of those. If you only have to deal with one, see, then immediately that's a tremendous advantage. But he's just a gifted athlete. Now, the thing you want to do is see him continue to get better and get pushed. But you could see all of that. And that's why everybody was so excited when you saw him, where you could see him do all these different things that there are not a lot of guys that show that much in college. But he's what you call a natural, You know
what, Gary? I'll throw this at you. How crazy would it be that if the Eagle D-line had a better season than the Eagle offensive line with Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Fletcher Cox? You surely have the bodies on that side of the ball. Mm-hmm. And I hate the word potential because it means traditionally you haven't done it. Yeah. But boy, I'll tell you what, There is a lot invested on that side of the ball for the Eagles now.
They really do. I mean, you didn't even mention Smith, where, you got the speed, but that's what you got, with Jalen Carter is you got power and you got speed. I mean, you got both of those, and I mean, you're not going to be able to double team him really because you got all these other guys to worry about. So you can't be saying, well, we got to double team this rookie. Now, if they end up where they got to double team him, then you're letting everybody else is one-on-one. So, but he's a natural. He's got the power and he's got the quickness and he's got the moves outside. And then, he's a flexible type of guy, so he can slide. He can do all these different things. And you can see where they really didn't perfect that at Georgia. They didn't work on all of that because you can see the other guys aren't advanced like that. A lot of this kid has just got natural ability. He's just a gifted natural athlete. And I think that the sky's the limit. I think he can get much better. I doubt that he really has touched, how strong he could get with a real good, a lifting program where he's got other guys that are really pushing him. He could get even stronger to where he really would be scary. I mean, what you got is you got a bigger, what am I thinking of some of these other guys that are great athletes. But he's big too. See,
Gary,
so
let me throw this at you here also with that, what you're touching on here. Do you think it's harder to develop players today because the NFL plays a fine line here with the collective bargaining agreement?
Yeah.
Back in the day, you and I and people who went through 3-a-days and 2-a-days, and look, maybe totally overkill. We all got that. It was totally overkill. And everything that the NFL did because it was a military mentality a lot of those coaches came from. Mm-hmm. So that's why they implemented it.
Yep.
But do you think, with all that being said, that it's tougher to teach technique? These kids are more gifted and they're faster, they're stronger, they're bigger. But do you think it's tougher to teach technique with the limited time that you're given, especially in OTAs and in training camp?
I think so. That's why that player has to be committed to do it on his own almost. Because his time with the coaches, he doesn't have that kind of time with the coaches. Now, like you said, when we were playing, they took as long because they could have you out there 24 hours a day if they wanted to. So they didn't have to worry about that. But now there's a limited amount of time he spends with the coaches. That's why you need veteran players really working with the guy and really in order to have a great team, the guy's got to really be hungry for it. Or because you don't get but so much time to really practice and really hone a skill and get it to where, it's just popping. You got to have a commitment from the team. And that's why the good teams have a group of guys that are committed. And the mediocre teams, they stay in the basement. They never get
Barry,
out.
Do you think that's why the Eagles keep a balance of veteran guys so that when they get these young guys, I mean, they draft a kid from Alabama in the offensive line, the kid Jurgens, and then on the other side, Carter and Davis, and then you're young in the safety position. Do you think this is why they keep that balance around because of the limited practice that you get? I know they get that organized team practices now. They use that a lot, but is that one of the reasons they try to keep that balance?
I think it's definitely why, because, your veteran players really almost serve as coaches in a way.
Yeah.
Because they're getting the guys together. They're making sure everybody's working and that type of thing, especially at the skill positions. Like, you see the things Jalen does. He's getting those guys together and they're working out consistently. And that really sets them apart because they're putting in that type of work where you got other guys are not. Because, if they're not totally committed to it, and maybe they got their quarterback where he doesn't want to work out with the guys, so that really allows teams to really separate themselves, now. And I definitely think the Eagles have done some things there where they've got these veteran players and they are really, in a lot of times, almost coaches because they get everybody together. And they make sure guys are getting together and working. And I think it's really something different. It didn't used to be like this in the NFL because everybody was getting pushed like that.
How about this? I was listening to Howie Roseman with Mike Florio a couple days ago, and he made this comment. They asked him, and he kind of re-hit on why he gambled on Jalen Carter with all the things that people were saying about him. He goes, in the past, maybe my process was a little bit too conservative. And to me, I never went with some of the gut feeling that I should take on a player like this.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that kind of held us back. And I thought it's not admitting failure, but in a way, since he's come out of that broom closet, Gary, he seems to be listening more.
Mm-hmm.
He's more, instead of just analytically going with players or things, he's going more with a gut feeling and experience. Is it because he's been more experienced and has gone through all this journey, working for Joe Banner, being put in the broom closet, given the reins again?
That's
right. Is that why we're seeing all this?
It may be. I can't say that I really know and would be able to make a call on that. I can't say, but it must be. Now, I will also say that he's done a better job during the draft of leaning on the guys that this is their expertise. And their guys call it, and he should be doing this or staying in line with certain things. He has been able to do that, meaning that he's not just, taking off. And sometimes he does, let's say at the beginning, but a lot of times he kind of stayed with what they went out and what they graded all those guys. And they had their chart, and they stayed with the chart. That's why some of the Georgia guys said, oh, we knew they were going to take this guy. They knew what they were going to do because that chart said, do this and that. And so he just stayed with that chart. Now, I'll tell you one thing just to throw in there. I got to see that he clearly cannot be done with everything they're going to do at the linebacker position. I think they're going to have to get some experienced linebackers in it because they don't have any experience.
They got 4 dudes right now, Gary.
I know.
Only 4 guys on the
roster.
Only
4 guys. And these guys have no experience. I think Dean, I was just talking with him the other day. Kid is smart, man. Kid is smart.
You believe in him?
Oh yeah, he's football smart. I mean, he's small, so he has limitations there. But a lot of it is if you know and you can anticipate plays, like formation and everything. Come on, you can be there before they even do the block. And so he's that kind of kid. He's very bright. So I feel good about him. The other kid, Moreau, this kid has one decent season, and that was when he was in
Minnesota.
Chicago, and they had a horrible defense. I don't know about him. And they got no depth. They got nobody else with any experience. So I expect them to do something. They'll grab some guys out there, get people with some experience, but they'll be playing behind an outstanding defensive line, so they'll have a chance to really do something. But they're going to get some experience in here, I think.
So that leads me to this then. Okay, that being said, DeAndre Hopkins' name out there. What makes more sense for the Eagles? And I say this, Gary, because people are going like this. Look, I agree. I think it's going to be a 3-headed horse race. Dallas, Bills, Chiefs. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be those 3, maybe an outlier in Cleveland because he had his best year with Deshaun Watson. Yeah. Could be something like that. But, Gary, does a linebacker help you win the Super Bowl, or does D-Hop make you unstoppable?
Well, clearly, I think, those skill positions like that, I mean, that's the game now. Because if you got him, I mean, how are you going to play the Eagles? Like, what are you going to do other than pull your hair out if you're a defensive coordinator? I mean, they're already to the point now where there's no way you can stop all those guys. They just got to play poorly for the defense to stop the Eagles.
How do you play poorly with all those guys on offense?
I mean, I don't know how you stop all those guys. How can you stop all these guys? You can't, because, they're going to be guys one-on-one, and a lot of them, they're going to win their one-on-one battle. Come on. So I don't know how you're going to stop that Eagles offense. Because AJ was over there, and I asked him, how he felt, the fact that everybody's got them circled. And you got all the coaches now. They're sitting looking at Eagles tape. They're trying to we got to find a way to stop these guys because they embarrassed people last year. They're going to be tough, man. They're going to be tough to deal with. And, the big thing is, Jalen stays healthy. That's the biggest threat. I hold my breath when he hangs on to the ball because you got all these weapons they have. That is going to be
unbelievable. I agree. Okay, well, that being said, let's add this onto it. Who do you think has a career year this year? Goddard? Who's more likely, Goddard, AJ, Devontae, or DeAndre Swift?
Well, I think, Goddard's going to have his best year because, he would have had it last year if he hadn't got hurt. So he's going to have a great year. I just don't think there's enough balls to go around for.
Yeah, but Gary, look here. I said this last week about that comment, and I hear everyone saying it. Is it more important to have the footballs go around everybody so they get their catches, or is it more important that coordinators can't defend the offense? Meaning by this, so what, Gary, if DeAndre Hopkins doesn't get 100 catches, but he gets 65 or 70, or what's his name, AJ gets 80? Isn't it more important that you can't stop it and defensive coordinators can't defend it than making sure Devontae gets catches? Because then you start talking like Cleveland was with Odell Beckham or with Antonio Brown. Then you become reliant on one guy. You want to spread the ball out as much as possible.
The thing you're talking about is winning,
right.
And you got a guy in Jalen Hurts to go back there and say, hey, such, I had to go here, you understand. The thing about it is we got to score, and that is the thing that we're trying to do is we got to win. We can't make sure everybody gets the ball every game, especially every game. And so there are going to be some guys a little sore probably, when they're in the locker room, and they're not talking to anybody because, hey, they caught one pass. But it's all about winning. That's what it's got to be. He's got to go around there and preach that because they can't get the ball to everybody every game. There's just and the big thing about it is you make the defense basically look, what medicine do you want today? Because we're gonna give you the medicine you asked for.
JM here brings a point up that I think exactly what you and I are talking about. Will D-Hop be okay not getting all the targets? So NFL fans are under the premise that some of these top wide receivers would rather have this number, 14 catches, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, but they don't care if they win or lose. They'll take the L as long as they have those numbers. If that's the kind of mentality, then guess what? I mean, I could do without that mentality because I'm okay with who I am now.
Yeah.
But that just makes no sense to me that, hey, guess what?
Yeah, I know. But
you and me
a lot
get
of them are like that,
in a ball game. I get 2 sacks, you get 2 interceptions, but we took the L. Hey, I'm okay with that. I mean, that's one thing about football players. We never brag when a loss.
I know that. But, that there are wide receivers, and there are plenty of them, that they want those numbers. And when they don't get the numbers, you see them in there, they're looking in the mirror, they're not happy. After the game, they're not speaking to anybody. And the coaches over there, you got the assistant coach over there trying to talk to them. A lot of them are like that. I mean,
I would hand out tissue papers to those guys after games. Then here's a tissue. If you got an issue, here's a tissue.
How many years I've been walking into locker rooms, and I already know, such and such is not happy. They might have won the game, but he only got 3 or 4 catches. And he's not a happy camper.
The post-game puss then. That's what it's called. The post-game puss. Look at that guy. He got 1 catch, 3 targets, and he's pissed off, and we won.
That's right. And there's so many of them are like that. Come on. As long as I've been around the game, come on. They've always been like that. And I'm telling you, a lot of guys you think are, they're team players. I'm going, he's team. When he gets his 5, he gets his 10 catches. He's team. But I don't know if you're ever going to be real to change that because, the Eagles had some guys. I mean, but they won a lot last year, and they got guys that are really team oriented. But I saw them pouting when they wasn't all thrilled, and they had 2 catches and 3 catches. So I don't know if you ever can really get all the way away from that.
How about this one here? Are you more concerned? There's something that's a real thing here with the upcoming season. What are you more concerned with? The new coordinators or the toughest schedule in the league?
That's a good question.
I mean, because think about what you have here. With all the talent on the team, you got new dudes in the building on both sides of the ball calling plays on offense and defense, and you have the toughest schedule in the NFL. Boy, that's
Yeah.
quite a hill to climb. I know you've got all this talent.
Yeah.
I know you love your coach, but this team has, where I'm going, Gary, is this team really hasn't faced a lot of adversity in the last year and a half.
I think that the offensive and defensive coordinators, I think they're most important, because I think if this team, if they're playing at the level that they can play at, schedule, whatever, they'll be able to take care of business. They'll be one of the better teams in the league as long as everything is done the way it's supposed to be done there. So I would say that, because I don't think that even though it's a tough schedule and everything, I think the Eagles can handle themselves. They'll be fine as long as they play the way they're capable of playing. They're not going to win them all, but they will be one of the top teams in the league. I'm very confident of that. And I think ultimately that's the most important thing. So as long as these guys do their job properly, have these guys ready to play, I think they'll be fine, even with that tough schedule. And because, they're going to be injuries. Things are going to happen to some of those other teams. Some of the teams that were good last year won't be good this year. So they just handle their business. I think they'll be fine.
All right. Last question for you. It's the offseason. It's time to work on deficiencies.
Yeah.
What is the one weakness right now of Jalen Hurts' game?
The one weakness. Boy. The biggest thing is
what's the thing you'd like to see him get better at?
The only thing concerns me is the running. Maybe he likes to run a little too much. I've liked the way his touch. He's developed a touch. With putting a little air under the ball, taking something off of it. I'm not really concerned about anything with regards to Jalen Hurts. The only thing I'm concerned about is him staying healthy. That's all I'm concerned about with him. I think, if he plays the way he played last year, he's putting that ball on there. He's gotten better in all these areas. That's the startling thing is, come on, his touch was awful at times where he throw the ball too hard, but he'll take stuff off the ball now, drop it in there, put some air on it, let it drop in there. He just come so far. If he can play like he did last year, just stay healthy, Jalen. Just stay healthy, man.
How about this, Gary?
Yeah.
Do you think that one of the things that and God, man, you've played against Elway and Montana and all these superstar players.
Yeah.
Do you think once these guys take those elevated leaps and those steps, they become smaller once you make that first step from 1 to 3? Now you're making these smaller steps. Do you agree that the more experience and the more you see the game, the more patient you become with the game, and you allow the game to come to you and you have more of a relaxed mentality? I'm not saying you're not motivated. I'm saying you see it slower. Would that be something that because maybe it's just more reps? Because remember, Gary, he's only had one great season here.
Yeah.
So probably just being even more patient because like you say, hey, I don't want you running all the time.
Right.
Maybe that's a comfort zone that still has to be worked on because you know why? What do you resort to every single, just like when me and you were playing, hey, I don't want to play that guy's technique because I'm really not good at that technique. So we always resort back to the one that we have success with.
That's right.
To make that play. Is that kind of where he is right now in his evolution?
Well, the thing that it's amazing to me is the way everything has slowed down for him. He's seeing everything and able to make the decision where, you're saying, boy, is he going to get that ball out in time? It's out, So I just think that everything is slowing down to him. And I think, the more reps he gets, I know what all the other guys they step up on that level, most of them have stayed there for just about their whole career. So I would anticipate that he's going to be there. And, I feel comfortable with the fact that, the game is slowing down to him. He's seeing everything clearly. He's able to make decisions. And I think he can say, okay, you know what? I'm not going to take any chances. I know I can't. I got to stay healthy for these guys. So he'll run, be smarter about running too. When to run, when not to run and everything. Because that's usually what happens. The guys are better with the ball. The older they get, the quarterback. And normally the quarterback, you know, he continues to get better and better and better. And he's still nowhere near his peak time.
Garry,
so
I'm going to sneak one more in on you here.
Yeah.
What kind of process and how long do you think it's going to take? Because first and foremost, do you agree that anytime you make a change of coordinator, there is I don't know, trust, but there is there's like a comfort zone that you're trying to get in with that coordinator because Steichen, one thing for Shane and Jalen, they had a pretty cool chemistry. And I guess maybe that's the word I'm looking for. How are we going to anticipate? Like, because I don't think they're just going to dive off the diving board together and these guys and things are just going to go as smooth as it was a year ago. Or maybe you do.
It might be a little
how long of a process is that? Do you think that comfort zone's going to take?
Well, of course, I can't say that, because I haven't had the headphones on where I'm listening to what they're saying, and how that play went in and everything. But, you got the quarterback coach is now the offensive coordinator who's calling the plays. And he was in Jalen's ear already during games. He was already in his ear. So I don't see the big change. There is going to be some subtle change. And then Nick was in Steichen's ear all the time, tell him, hey, after every series, hey, maybe we need to do this a little more. I want to see us go. We probably need to run this play,
So, do you think Nick's going to have more of a say this year? Or how about this, more input?
Well, he's always been listening all the time. So he can give him input. That's why I think he's got the new offensive coordinator's got a better chance of having a smooth transition to taking over because Nick was listening to all the plays go in last year too. See, and he was listening, and both of them were listening all the time. So now I don't think it's going to be a big difference. I think they can stay things a lot in the same way because Nick always had a lot of input in the plays that were being called. He would talk to him after every series. See, hey, what about this? Let's get this in. Let's get that in. So I think there's going to be a pretty smooth transition offensively. I think they got a bigger challenge defensively because their defensive coordinator was not here last year. He's new. He wasn't listening to the calls go in. So I think they got more of a challenge on the defensive side of the ball than the offensive because a lot of the guys that were participating in the play calling, they're back. They're back. Steichen's gone, but all the other guys are back. So I think they can replicate a lot of what was happening last year because they were listening to everything last year and they were hearing the plays go in and everything. And I think they got a feel and probably will try to kind of stay in sync with a lot of the things they were doing last year. So,
well, that being said, then Garry, do you think that would you give all that control to Nakobe Dean, who's never done it? I mean, that's a pretty big ask. Hey, by the way, I think no one's asked that question. Okay, Who's going to set the fronts? Who's going to make the calls? Who's going to set the defense? Are you really going to put it on a guy who hasn't seen any of that and doesn't have any game experience?
I know, yeah.
Is he going to be the play caller out there on defense?
I think he is. I think he is. Like I said,
that's a big responsibility.
I know, you're right. And from talking to him, the kid is smart. Like, I asked him a question, and I see the other guys looking at me, that I would ask them. Basically, I said, hey, Nakobe, what do you see as the difference between, the college game, these college offenses, and these pro offenses? What's the difference? And he started getting into the differences about the fact that, the pro offenses, they'll spread you out and you got a tough tight end to cover. You got these wide receivers, and they could throw the ball, but they could attack you with the running game. But he said that most of the time in college, the teams did one or the other. So either they were going to throw the ball or they're going to run the ball. Few of them were able to do both of them well. See, so they had a strength. But in the pros, they could spread you out and run the ball all day long, or they could spread you out and they're picking you apart with the passing game. And he's got a good feel for that, and I just let him talk. So
Gary, don't you think that's one of the reasons why some of the experienced quarterbacks have eaten this defense up the last 2 years is because of the inexperience on the coaching staffs that they have? There's a lot of young dudes that are on both sides of the football. Mm-hmm. And to me, every time they line up against an experienced guy, those quarterbacks eat them up.
Yeah, because you got to you need guys that can subtly create problems for the quarterback. They, even though he has a good idea of what coverage you're in, you got to be able to subtly change things, and you got to trick him sometimes, because that's what's going to make him uneasy. If he lets go of a ball and all of a sudden somebody's somewhere where they weren't supposed to be, see? And unless you're able to make that happen, he feels comfortable where he comes out right away. He knows what you're in. Then he's going to pick you apart. Because if he knows what coverage you're in, he knows where he's going with the ball, and a lot of them will be patient, take what you give them, and march right down the field on you. So it's tough. It's tough, and really the way they call things is they want more points. So. I'm going
to sneak one last one. I promise you this will be the last one here. When it comes to Nolan Smith, do you think it'd be in the best interest to start the season with him behind Haason Reddick and have him play behind him? And as he sees the game of more and more, he goes in for Reddick, or he just plays behind him, how he prepares, how he lines up, how he's looking at the techniques. And as the season goes on, maybe you give him some reps on the other side. Or do you want to try to get both those missiles on the field at the same time? Because to me, experience, Gary, playing behind an experienced guy and watching how he plays the game and his alignments, how he cheats, maybe he cheats on an alignment, head up, 2 technique, 3 technique, what have you.
Yes.
What would be the best for his development?
Well, they've already started where they introduced them. They're already talking now, because every time he's able to see what Haason does, in fact, he's got a great situation because he's able to come into the pro game and just study what he should look like. This is what he should be doing. This is the way he should be attacking these big offensive tackles, And Haason does a great job of. He uses his speed, which is the advantage they have, and then they're both able to come around that corner, and they're so low to the ground. They're so close to the ground. The big offensive tackles a lot of them can't hardly get down there, especially moving at that type of speed coming around that corner. So I don't think they have to really worry about him going right behind him and everything. He's going to be watching everything he does. He's learning from him in practice now. And he's got a great benefit in that you've got a guy who is really a carbon copy of you, and you're able to see how he exploits his speed, his quickness and everything against these offensive tackles. So it's a great situation for him to be able to come into, and he's going to get a chance to see him all year long and really benefit from that. That's a great thing. But I think the only thing about it is they got to let Josh Sweat play because, he's probably their best, most complete defensive end. And the son of a gun is going to be getting to the quarterback too. So they got to let Josh Sweat play.
That's right, because what you don't want to do is stunt his development because he's getting better and better.
Yes, he is.
You all of a sudden start taking reps from him now.
Yeah. But you know what?
You worry about that.
They got a great problem because Nolan has got the kind of speed. I don't think many guys have seen a guy come around that corner like this kid can. And he's going to be a better pro than he was a college player because a lot of those big tackles, this is the thing they dread. They probably get no sleep with this kid coming down as low as he is to the ground, coming around that corner at that speed. He's going to be trouble for those big tackles.
All right, Gary, I got to get you out of here on this one. Your take on Nick Nurse being named 76er coach. Just a quick one there on that. I said this, Gary, doesn't matter.
The whole thing with him and Harden, that's what it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Harden. That's the whole talk about. But you know, he's got to get these guys. They got to be able to play, man. When you know, really, you play all year. They got to have these guys playing at their best, man. When it's on the line, you cannot get blown out and embarrassed like that. You just cannot have that happen.
Celtics get blown out on their own floor like that last night. I tell you,
I got to give the Heat credit, man. They got some guys that's got some heart, boy, because they could have rolled up and just went through the motions, but they came out, man. They play hard. And
every time you see Jimmy Butler, do you throw up now?
Oh,
I mean, that guy was a Sixer.
No way they should have let him go, you know?
Tobias Harris.
You know the reason they let him go is the reason they should have kept him, because he has a strong opinion. He's going to give you his opinion. He's not afraid of you to give you his opinion.
Did you see him and Spoelstra almost get into a fight this year?
Yeah.
On the side, Spoelstra threw the clipboard down. These two guys almost came to blows.
But see, they be able to get over that when they get into the locker room. But the thing is, he knows, look, this guy wants to win, man. And he's a fighter. And he makes sure all these other guys are ready to fight every time they put on their uniform. And that's why they're in the finals now, man. And they had him right here. And the reason they let him go, because he got real strong with one of the guys, whatever, and it intimidated them. They're going, oh, we don't know about him. When right now, that's what you need. You need somebody to go, look, hey, if you come in this locker room now, you better be ready to play, or we're going to fight in here before we go out.
Hey, that's a dog mentality, man.
That's a dog. Garry, that's a dog mentality. That's right.
Thank you, my friend, so much for the time, man. You spent a lot of time. Hope they had a great Memorial Day weekend. Thank you. Anytime you need anything from us, I so appreciate it, my friend.
No problem, man. You have a good one.
You got it. That is the great Garry Cobb. Absolutely, man. Hey, Jimmy was let go because he got in Ben Simmons' ass. I'll say it. And now that you know what Snowflake's all about, can you imagine? Dude, I saw that with Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler. I don't know. You guys have to Google it. They're on the side, and Spoelstra told him to run something. I guess he had a bitch with him about it. And those two guys, they started getting in each other's face. I thought they were going to throw hands. And I went like this. Dude, if that's not Pat Riley mentality, I want 53 dudes like that on my football team. Those are the kind of guys I want, that you'll come to blows, man. And you won't tolerate losing. Hey, does it make it a very intense locker room? And you should be living your entire life in professional sports on the edge. Never in a comfort zone. That's how I've always looked at it. You should be living with a sense of urgency every single time that you are on a professional field or court or ice. You got to have that mentality. Ben Simmons is worried about his Instagram whores. Okay? Jimmy Graham is worrying about Larry O'Brien trophies. Hey, Philly, you chose wrong. Okay, to quote an Indiana Jones movie, he chose poorly. Hour 2, Kevin Frazier from Entertainment Tonight. I have a Jalen Carter topic here. Something that was told to me yesterday by my secret source inside the NovaCare Center. I'll tell you what that was next. Keep it here on the